Last day, result, nothing. Been going here with it, just that stuff. Like, I'm not gonna get challenged. Just, don't get me wrong. This is just comes now scary.
People can ask questions.
The panels are coming tomorrow. Correct.
So far, you look so
Yeah. Correct. Correct.
Still comes to
That's the elements. This. Let's take it.
Often I still do some right to do.
No, just.
Maybe
I just want to know.
I don't know when I'm going to get back.
As I said, you changed this week. Back then, I've already set up something for next week. You know what I mean? It's like that. I've got to do the process. And it's like things here that
I can't believe again we said every year how quick this year is going. Potential years, yeah. Getting up to
Well, I crack confused anyway, but of course this was all
it's actually about this one. Doctors weken from your pulse.
exactly that.
Looking at the standing. So that it's because this is a two contentious species. That stands out. The annualization really stands out. So
but then you might have also feeling that
But next will be.
yeah, so that question is going to come from us. So that's fun just asking.
But you know what? Look against. It's something. The only thing that
It's a two-pronged approach.
we said then it's we said
So it's a two-pronged approach. It's this approach. The other approach that I'm busy. It's the two-pronged. It's hard. But
Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are streaming this live, so I'm hoping there's a lot more people tuned in than there are people here. There's very few people attending in person, but for those of you, welcome to our annual feedback meeting on our finances. But we're going to kick off this evening with a presentation, and that's to do with fire. in connection with fires. We have recently had a couple of fires on our estate in homes, and we thought it would be a good opportunity at this feedback meeting just to give you residents all a bit of a feedback on how fires should be, could be handled, and what to do in an emergency of a fire, especially these days with the new lithium batteries and how to handle that situation. So to start off with, we're going to ask Professor Susan Bouillon to please come up and give us her presentation, and then we will be open here from the floor if there's any questions to that presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Susan Bouillon. I'm from the firm Delecon Group. So Delecon consists of 3 divisions: is Delecon Fire, Delecon Planning, and Delecon Legal. So tonight I'm here to talk about fire risks in residential dwellings in South Africa. So Delecon Fire is responsible for the installation and supply of firefighting equipment. So that is the handhelds, your DCPs, your CO2s, your foam, your water, your lithium, and then whatever goes with that, your signage and stuff like that. So over and above being a legal person that specializes in planning law, I'm also a fire technician. So I did the course, and for the past 10 years, I have been a fire technician. So I hope that I'm basically well equipped to answer the questions tonight and to just give you more information with regards to fire risks in South Africa. So annually, about 265,000 causes of deaths in the world, home fires. So there's obviously a lot more fires, but approximately 265,000 people die every year because of home fires. So South Africa is obviously not excluded. On a daily basis, we have home fires in South Africa, and home fires destroys homes. House fires destroys homes and livelihood. So I'm sure those of you who have been in the unfortunate position to experience a home fire knows exactly that when your home or your house burned down, you lose everything. And your house is the most valuable asset of each and every one of us. So that's why it's important for us that we basically protect what we have. So currently and nowadays, the past few years, the emerging risk in house fires are solar and lithium batteries. They add to a majority of the home fires in South Africa. So fires are preventable, yet remain a major risk due to the unsafe energy use and overcrowded housing. The common causes of home fires or house fires in South Africa, there are quite a number of causes, but the major ones and the most important ones and the ones that occur in an estate like yours is electrical faults, overloaded plugs, damaged wiring that was not done by a qualified person that caused electrical faults, then unattended cooking. You have your gas stove on, you leave your pots and pans on the stove, and you decided, oh, let me quickly go just attend to an email. And if you are like me, you will totally forget about whatever is on the stove. So that is another one. And then heating devices, a heater or stuff like that, that is also causing a lot of home fires. Candles and open flames, and then the most important one, solar and lithium batteries. So solar systems paired with a lithium-ion battery have become a significant emerging risk in South African homes. Lithium batteries can overheat, catch fire, and are extremely difficult to extinguish. The causes of lithium battery fires is damage to the battery cells, overcharging or faulty charging systems, excessive external heat, in other words, it's installed in a poor ventilation or in direct sunlight. The unique danger of a lithium battery. When a lithium battery burns, it releases oxygen. Oxygen fuels the fire further, and that makes it very, very difficult to extinguish or suppress that fire with water or with a standard fire extinguisher. So if you look at the diagram, oh, sorry, I see it's a little bit light. So if you look at the three components there, so the first one there is overheating. Your batteries overheat, or there's an internal reaction, or there's a rapid temperature rise. So your batteries become hot very, very fast. That causes fire risk. So just some general information on how a fire starts. So this is what we call a fire triangle. So you have heat, you have oxygen, you have fuel. So you must have those three elements together, or those three elements available at once for you to have a fire. The heat, it rises the fuel to its ignition's temperature. The sources for a heat includes open flames, sparks, electrical faults, or hot surfaces. Your fuel, any combustible material such as wood, paper, plastic, paraffin, or lithium batteries. The type of fuel influences how fast and intensely the fire burns. And then the last one is the oxygen, the oxidizing agent, usually from the air, that supports combustion. Without oxygen, the fire cannot continue. That's a fact. So when you have heat, fuel, and oxygen present in the right proportions, you will get a fire. To extinguish a fire, you remove any one of those three elements. So if you remove the heat by cooling down with water, or you remove the fuel by cutting off the combustible material, or you remove the oxygen by smothering with foam, CO2, or a fire blanket, you will extinguish or suppress your fire. So what I want to talk to tonight is the fire prevention in a dwelling house. So I have divided it into two. I have divided it into preventative solution general. So that is your general, what you can do to prevent a general fire in your house. And then the second one is your solar battery system. So what can you do in an estate like this to prevent fire? You can install a smoke alarm. You get a type of a smoke alarm that works with batteries. I have some of them available that you just install on your ceiling or somewhere just right through your house. They will pick up as soon as there are smoke or is smoke available or smoke in your house. That alarm will pick it up. It will trigger the alarm, and it will give you a warning, an early warning that there is excessive smoke in your house. The second one is to install fire extinguishers. So you get different types of fire extinguishers. You get a CO2, your gas. So the CO2 fire extinguishers, you usually use that for electrical fire. In other words, if you have a computer room or in the kitchen, you will use the CO2. Why? Because the CO2 is just gas. So you can use it in your kitchen. It will just, after you have killed or extinguished your fire with the CO2, there won't be any powder or something or foam or water in your kitchen. It's just a gas. Then the next one that you get is a DCP. That is your powder extinguisher. That is usually what you use for paper, wood, plastic. DCP or a powder equipment contains a powder. So if you use that in a place like a kitchen, your whole kitchen will be covered in powder. And it's sometimes very difficult to clean that powder. So that's why we propose to our clients that in your kitchen, rather use a CO2. We also install CO2s in a restaurant, in the kitchen of restaurants, because that is the better option. You don't want a fire on the oil where they make chips and then extinguish that fire with the powder, and then you have to replace whatever was there. So that's why we propose a CO2. The other one is water. You can use a water extinguisher and a foam extinguisher for something like oil. That is, if you have a workshop, you will extinguish a fire that was ignited by oil. You will extinguish that with foam, and then you have a lithium. That is the extinguisher that you will use, and that was specifically manufactured for lithium batteries. So the components of the lithium extinguisher is specifically put together to extinguish the lithium fire, the fire that sets oxygen. So whatever the components are within the lithium fire extinguisher, that will smother the oxygen in a fire that was caused by the battery. So our proposal is that you install fire equipment in your house, although currently, believe it or not, fire extinguishers are not a requirement in terms of the national standards. So if you want to provide extinguishers in your house, that is on yourself. That is not a requirement by your insurance company, and it's not a requirement from the national standards, or from the Occupational Health and Safety Act. But obviously, it's good to, if you have an extinguisher in your house, because then you have the necessary means and ways to extinguish a fire. So our proposal is in your kitchen to install a CO2 as well as a fire blanket. A fire blanket is just a piece of material that you can throw over a fire. If, say, for instance, there's a pot of hot oil that burns, you can just take this blanket, you can throw it over the pot, and it will smother the fire immediately. You can also put a fire blanket inside your vehicle, so that if there is a fire in your vehicle, you can use the fire blanket to extinguish the fire. General, if you have a locker or you have a braai place, you can install a DCP or a powder extinguisher for that area. And then if you have a solar system, a lithium is the correct extinguishing or fire extinguisher to install. Remember, fire equipment must be serviced annually. So if you do install a CO2 or a DCP or a lithium fire extinguisher in your house, just remember to annually get a company to service your fire equipment. Preventative solution: do not overload plug points. Keep heating devices clear of curtains and blankets. Do not leave gas stoves unattended. Keep fire extinguishers accessible. So that means if you have fire extinguishers, just put them, you can put them at the outside of your back door or at outside of your front door, just at the outside, it's fine. They can withstand sunlight, then nothing will happen to them. If you are afraid that something might happen, we do sell a cover that you can put over your extinguisher, but at least you know that if there is a fire inside your house, there's no need for you to run past your fire to get to your fire extinguisher. That is a very important point, that you do not keep your fire equipment and that you need to pass the fire to get to your fire equipment. It's not going to work. Nobody of us is going to run towards a fire. You are rather going to run away from the fire. And then as you run away from the fire, please ensure that your equipment is there. So if you have a solar system, our proposal is that you use a certified electrician to install your solar systems. Use quality batteries and inverters. Avoid counterfeit products because those are the products that cause the majority of fires. Ensure proper ventilation and safe battery placements. Do not install a battery inside your bedroom. Do not install it inside a cupboard without any ventilation or near an escape route because if there's a fire, then you can't get out. Do not install them next to flammable materials. And please remember to do regular maintenance checks on your solar systems and your batteries. So what to do in case of a fire? Obviously, stay calm. That's easy to say. I mean, if there's a fire in your house, the last thing that you will stay calm. But in any event, try to stay calm. Evacuate immediately. Call 10177 or 112. Those are the two numbers in South Africa that will work for you to get a fire brigade. Do not re-enter your house. Do not go back into your house. Most residential fires are preventable. Simple precautions save lives. Regular inspection protects your home and your family. Basic firefighting training on how to use a fire extinguisher is also available. And that's all from me.
Thank you very much, Professor Susan. That was very interesting. I don't know if there's any questions from the floor, but before I do that, please, if you're going to ask a question, give us your name, stand number for the record. Otherwise, you will go down as anonymous asking a question. So are there any questions for Susan? Yes, sir.
My name is Martha Chipeta. I'm from Monte Carlo Drive. I've got two questions. One is, we use gas. And in our case, we found the only time that the line from the supply tanks to the house was checked was when we bought a new stove. We do not know of any regulation or requirement for checking the line of gas that is coming to the house.
So the question is,
It's gas.
gas, and is there somebody's responsibility to check the lines that feed your house? Whose responsibility is it and how often?
Good. So first of all, when you install your gas will basically be installed by a certified installer, and that person will give you a COC that confirms your gas was installed in accordance with the necessary SANS regulations and necessary legislation. So as a homeowner, it's your responsibility to just sometimes maybe every once a month, once every 2 months, just walk past your line and just make sure that your line is still intact. I know that in terms of regulations, they must put your gas pipe in a type of a copper pipe or a type of a pipe that cannot damage easily. So just make sure that that pipe next to your wall is not damaged. And you can obviously smell gas. So once you smell gas, just get somebody to come and have a look for you. I'm not aware of any maintenance that must be done on your gas supply system. It's not like the fire that needs to be serviced annually. I'm not aware of that. So the responsibility will remain with the homeowner just to make sure that you check it.
Second is a request. Are we going to get this circulated?
Yes.
Yes, we will arrange with Professor Susan here if we can get it from her, and we'll circulate it then so that you can have it. We'll send it out. I think Yaku is a link or something. We'll send it out. We'll arrange for that so that you can always refer back to it. I think it's very valuable information for all of us to follow. But coming back to your first question, I think it's quite clear that it's actually the responsibility of each one of us to check our own systems. There is no regulation that says you have to every year go and get your certificate reevaluated or brought up to date. That's going to be up to you. How safe do you feel in your house? If you think that you should have it checked every year, then please do so. Very important to have your stuff all up to date. You saw the statistics there. I was also shocked at how many people are losing lives due to house fires. And they really should be preventable from all of us. Okay. Good. Any other questions? Right. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Sibin from the Carol Drive. My question is, assuming that we have taken all the precautions, but we are not around at the time when the fire started, does the office have any opportunity to call the fire tractor to come and help, or how do they do that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, our guardhouse is geared up for all of that. Our guards have been trained in basic firefighting skills, and they're still getting trained. In fact, we were discussing it the other day. We're going to have quite a bit of more training to that, mainly due to the lithium. Okay, lithium has presented a huge problem for fire, as you've heard here tonight. So it's the same for us on the estate. So the guards are getting special training, and we're arranging through the homeowner's office to get a couple of the specialized lithium fire extinguishers so that our guards have got access to those. To answer your question, yes, when you're away, we're obviously relying, and that's why we're saying to everybody, every single resident, please be vigilant. You might see some smoke in your neighbor's house. Please phone the guard room. Let them know. The security will go and investigate, and then obviously there's a protocol for the security to put into action what they do. Call the fire brigade and take care of whatever needs to be taken, and then obviously you will be contacted to say there has been this problem at your home.
Yeah, we are also servicing one of the estates that falls within your estate, one of the small ones. So we have proposed to them, they have a fire hydrant. And we propose to them that they buy lay flat hoses, and we will give them training how to use it. So if there is a fire, instead of waiting for the fire brigade to come, you can just try to extinguish it by means of your own low flat hoses. Because you do have the equipment on the estate. Just make sure that you have all the necessary equipment to use it.
Yes, and I think it's also very important to please, we keep asking the residents every year, when you do go away on holiday and there's absolutely nobody at home, please inform security, let them know. We'll make an extra effort then for security to just keep an eye on your property for you while you're away. Okay, then they know nobody's there. So on their local patrols, they'll make a point of actually going past and making sure that everything is fine. All right. With that, thank you very much. Professor Susan, thank you very much. I think it was very interesting. I'm sure our residents will take a lot from it. And with your permission, we'll then circulate your presentation and take it from there. Thank you very much. Good. Yes. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I see our Minister of Finance quickly ran out. He's back again. I see he just got back. So we will then call on Udo to come and just present to us as feedback on our financial situation. And then once he's finished his presentation, we'll be open for some questions. And once again, please remember just to state your name and address if there are any questions. Thank you, Udo. All over to you.
Right, thank you. I must get used to this. Good evening, all. So I'm going to give a quick update as to the financial position of the Miners Association, as well as an early view as to how the budget is shaping up, and as well as the proposed levy increases for effective 1 April 2026. So before we start with the process. I think one thing we got to remember for ourselves. At the AGM, we make two critical decisions that influences the financial outcome and the way forward of the homeowners associations. The first one is the approval of the battle facilities, which is a significant capital investment, a significant improvement in facilities. Then the next one was the increase in the social membership fee towards the SSC to enable and support the SSC as a going concern and for them to deliver on the mandate that they needed. So we've got to keep those two facts in mind. So then the next piece, I'm going to give you preliminary financial results for year 26. It is last week or so, is estimates in there. It is a couple of things that still needs to change. Bad debts, accounting policy adjustment, etc. So this is, but it's not going to materially change what we've got. Where is all right, here we go. All right, so where do we find ourselves? We find ourselves with operating profit of 1.5 million rands for the financial year. By far the significant items that drove the outcome or influenced the outcome. The first one is the let's start with the salary income. So with the introduction of the fines and speeding and stuff, there is a significant increase or a fair increase in our income, salary income. We don't budget for these sort of things, and the purpose behind it is really behavior change. It's not to support the coffers of the homeowners association. Then the next piece is the whole rubber piece. The rubber piece, we embarked on cleaning up the rubber bands. We embarked on joining up with MMT, South Downs, Irene, etc., and running a litter trap south of Irene Golf Club. And then it is our own litter cost and removal, and that is substantial. The whole river is costing us in the tune of about 1.4 million for the year. So that's a significant expense. And unfortunately for hygiene and all those sort of things, we haven't really had a choice. And we've seen the things we've done, we've seen a significant improvement in the water flows and all of those sort of things. But there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, and it will continue, as been presented in previous previous feedback sessions. Then the next real piece, big piece, is where I spoke about the approval of the levy, and that had an impact on the cost curve. Otherwise, the rest is bits and pieces, nothing major, and the contingency that's part of our policies we have not utilized. So that gives me a 1.1 million profit for the year. So when we translate that into my balance sheet, the first thing to take note of is my receivables. There is pressure in the receivable pieces, and it is not, I say, not value driven, but quantity driven. The list of 3 months and longer debtors is increasing by the day. So there is pressure in the system. There's people under financial strain, etc. And there's the bank balance, which is by the net effect of capital expenditure versus and the profits and the buy and levy. That's the net result of this. So we had a small drop in bank balances, but nothing significantly. Then when we go to capital expenditure that we approved, notably the first one is the perimeter wall that we've been I want to say deferring, but it will come at some stage. I'm talking the palisade. The palisade will come at some stage. Then the front painting of the perimeter wall And so Foster Drive, that will, we're waiting for the rainy season to finish, that will commence. Otherwise, there is the paddle, which we haven't spent a lot of money, and that is going through all the approvals and all the hurdles it needs to go through. And then the other expenditures are all within reason and within the budget that we approved. Let's pause here and take any questions around the financial results for 2026. Yes.
On the receivables, we wanted to know, do you have like your forecast in terms of what is from out there?
Yes, and then we've got a strict policy. So I've got the list. I know how much is 30 days, how much is 60 days, how much is being handed over, how much has been sent to CSOs, how much is illegal, the whole lot.
And what are the chances of us recovering?
The chances are extremely well, because one of the protection mechanisms that's been put in is once you dispose of a property, it is the municipality as first that you need to pay them before you can effect transfer, and the second person is the homeowners. Without clearance from the homeowners, you can't effect transfer. So we're the second claimant against any debts, etc. So there is, but there is also collection laws, prescription, all sorts of things that you need to keep in mind in applying it, and that's why that's how the policy's been determined, and we follow the policy strict. There's no exceptions to it, relentlessly.
How much have we been offering the?
One case, and we wrote off. That's the majority of it was collection costs, bits and pieces of it. It's about 100. It's not a big number. So no, it's but there is strain, and that's visible in that balance that we see. But not overly concerned. As long as we apply our policies and are strict to adherence to it.
Tender. Thanks, Tender.
All right. Any other questions about 2026 financials? All right. Let's go to next piece is I'm going to come back to that slide. Okay, the colors changed. All right. So let's go. What's the proposed budget that we've got? The first one is I propose a 9% levy increase. And that is purely on the back of the decisions taken during the AGM and to rebuild the balance sheet to its state it was before the decisions we took. And that's going to be gradual. It's going to be a 2-3 year process. We're going to rebuild it to have adequate reserves for whatever eventualities will come around. But that's the first one. So that's 9%. Then minimum wages on the garden contract, that assumption is 5%. You'll see there's a significant drop in sundry income because I don't budget for those. It is accidental income. Then the next one is the normal provisional repairs. Staff costs at 6%, insurance at 8%. That's what it came out to. The big benefit we've received is we just went through the security tender process and awarded the security tender to the current service provider, but at a significant cost reduction. So there we've saved a fair bit of money, and then the SEC is their increases. There's the annualization impact of the decisions taken at the AGM, as well as then their increases are going along with the levy increases. The rest is pretty much vanilla within inflation or within sort of what we need to do going forward. So at the moment, I'm budgeting for 800 loss, but 700-800 of that is a contingency. So it's a zero-sum game, and hopefully with a lot of cost savings and all sorts of things in there, we'll come to a profit, not to that extent, but to a lesser extent. So that's the proposal. That's the budget, and that's the proposal. So how does that then? Let's have a look. The next piece is how do we plan to spend our capital expenditure? So that is, we spoke about that. Then it's the normal stuff. The continuous upgrade of security equipment. the continuous upgrade of the gardens. Then we want to spend some money in revamping the guardhouse and then looking at the health access control system, etc. And how do we upgrade it and become relevant? It's becoming dated and it needs a proper cleanup. So that is what we think at the moment. We're working about on 50 properties buy and levy. We've done, I think, 62, 63 houses this year. So it's those buy and levies are very conservative. We do a little bit better. So when you look at, there's about 500,000 shortfall, but at the moment, when we look at this, cash flow should be neutral this year for building reserves. This year we will be a little bit less, and then we will build again heavy reserves. So it's going to go a little bit up and down, but it is all in the direction of getting back to our back balance of 20 million rand. So that's the current view of the capital programs. And then how does that all translate into the money you're going to pay? We've had the principle that the 9% levy increase, we take the 9%, quantify, divide by 870 units, and every household increase by the same rand amount because of the historical disparities. So everybody will go up by 262 rands a month. That is where the finances are at the moment. I'm going to pause here and open up for questions.
Thanks for the points. So looking at the increases, I'm looking at inflation, I'm looking at increases. And we're increasing more than inflation, number one. Number two, I'm looking at some of us, okay, thanks for negotiating the security contracts. But for some of the service providers, can you also look at renegotiation of contracts so that they come in at lower than inflation so that we don't have high increases? And we also want to protect the cash position as well. We need to have more cash. And if we don't want expenses, yes, we're increasing by 9%, but I feel like we need a situation whereby maybe we start optimizing our costs. I don't know. We need help.
Okay, so
optimizing costs in terms of like just so that yes, we do have increases, but look at inflation and everything. And
okay, so let's quickly to unpack the inflation. What is the inflation drivers in here? So the first one is security, as I said. It's about a 1%, 2% growth, where Parliament increases 6.5%. That's determined by Parliament. The guards and stuff, they increase are determined by Parliament. So data service provider took some margin compression. The next one is the gardens. Minimum wage. Minimum wage is set by Parliament. Inflation plus 1.5%, 5%. That's the number. Some of the others are the miserable, your rates and taxes and all that sort of things, all double digits. And then the SSC is on the back of the levy, so it's a direct correlation. And then it's, at the moment, the view on the staff cost is inflation plus 1, plus 1.5. And again, you've got certain staff members that is a minimum wage, and others you've got to mix, and that's sort of where the blended rate is going to end itself. So we're trying our utmost best to run the big contracts. They all run on inflation or below inflation a bit, and some of them we're very optimistic that like the recycling is going to be zero. We afforded them last year above inflation increase, but then it goes for 2-3 years at a zero number. So it's be continuously, but that's the big buckets. And the big buckets, and when I go back, this is where this is now. Now we can talk this picture. 40% is driven, as I said, that's low single digits. That one is a decision, and then the 9%. Employee costs I just explained. That piece, which is 11-12%, is minimum wage set by Parliament, and then there's not a lot left, which is discretionary.
So security, you say we negotiated 1%.
No, it's up about with the new tender about 4% of the invoice. This is a substantial number. So that came down, and that's why you see the shift. Last year, security was 43% of the total spend. Now it's 39%. So there you can see. But then it got absorbed by the decisions taken at the AGM.
So what maybe I must stand up here. I want to take you up on your offer. Okay, because you said, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, you said you're willing to come and assist if there's somewhere you can help us, have a look at that. So I'd like you to, Yaku, our general manager standing next to you there, I'd like you to please contact him, come in. There might be something we can latch on from you that we can have a look at and assist us all. You need to understand, and this is for all residents, okay? We are all residents. Your board are all residents of this estate. We give up our time, and believe me, between us, that they're all here, we are also very shrewd business people, and we hate losing money. So we will do whatever we can within our powers to maintain that. When we came on the board at the same time with Uda, we took a decision that we don't want any special levies while we interim. Uda, am I correct?
Correct.
So we've maintained it now over the last, how many years have we been there?
So 2018 to, so that's pretty much 8 years. And at that stage, when we came on board, there was 2.5 million in the bank and 50 million in special levy looming.
Okay, so rest assured, we definitely look at everything, we scrutinize everything. We do not appoint any service provider without going through thoroughly, having a look at it and getting the best deal that we can for our estate. Right.
I was just looking at the biggest cost of security.
Believe me, we spend a lot of time appointing the security. It was very, very close between the two top contenders that came down to 2 people. I'll tell you, it was Bidvest Point, the one that won the tender, at Fidelity, South Africa. They were the 2. Very good, very competitive, both of them. And I think at the end of the day, we decided to maintain what we've got, mainly due to the good feedback. And when we look at our survey, and that's why we say, please, residents, the survey is very important to your board. We gauge what you feel through the surveys. And when we had a look at the percentages that they were happy with the security, that at the end of the day was the calling factor of let's go with these people. Otherwise, it was really very, very close.
Okay. Price-wise, R1,000 on R1 million a month.
Yeah.
It's negligible.
For security, that's fine.
Yeah.
Out of terms, then 187 times +2. Well, my question is just around 2 things. One is on the river interventions, which is quite a substantial amount, which we pretty much could take the money and drop it in the river and let it flow down every year. So it really is about, and I have seen the presentations on interventions from the council side, etc. And I guess it's one that does need a continuous think tank on how do we reduce the cost that is a resultant of elements outside of our control. And it is certainly something that should be high on the agenda, and I'm sure it probably is. Second question, which you can then, probably not a question, but for the years that I've been here, there's always security renewals, refresh, expenditure. And my question has always been around what's the strategic goals that we set around those in terms of when you look at refresh, do we have a 3-year life cycle refresh, a 5-year life cycle refresh? And that's probably just on devices and hardware. When you look at technology where that goes in relation to that space. So like the gentleman, I am in that space and happy to look at interventions and ways that you can improve that. But I do think there are certainly ways that you could also make that more predictable than we're continuously having the cost around security refreshes that I'm also not sure what informs that.
So the security equipment, the continuous refresh, that the equipment has been categorized. Category 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Category 1 is critical, cannot go down. So those the items needs to be newest technology, not older than 3 years. And so it goes down to category 5 items, they can go down for a week or 2, doesn't matter. So, and we roll it. So when we remove it from category 1, it goes to category 2. And then the other part of that is continuous expansion. And the expansion is mainly focused on internal versus the external pieces. But yeah, we assess, it's been assessed on, Jade is not here, but it's been assessed on an annual basis, what needs to be done, what not. It's not a black hole just throwing at it. But when I referred to that special levy when we came on board, that was all because of dated equipment. So you want to prevent at all cost dated equipment. You wanted a mixed bag of the equipment, and you want it up and running and not to compromise the security. So that's why it's a continuous program, and that will eliminate any special levies or big bumps in the thing. That's predictable. I hope I've answered your question. And then on the river, we tried to form a river committee. It sort of got off the ground and it sort of stalled because the people realize what daunting task it is and that a lot of the stuff is actually outside of our hands. But we engage on a continuous basis with council, with MMT, with South Downs, etc., as a broader community to try to deal it. But yeah, it's a black hole. So I agree with you, but if you don't do it, then your hygiene, all of those sort of things, you just compromise the quality of living that you've got. It's a gripe expense, if you want to call it that way. But when we try to manage it as good as we can within the circumstances, and hopefully with especially the drive of MMT, that we'll get better outcomes going forward. But there's also, as you heard in those feedback sessions, there's some legal cases pending, etc. So it's a very complex piece, but happy if you want to help. And then Chris can get in touch with you. That's within his portfolio. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Right, Sigren again. This was just a clarity-seeking question. Did I understand you correctly that the levy is based on 70 units?
870 units.
870
units, correct.
Okay, and what's the definition of a unit? Is it
An house, a townhouse, etc. And you'll see there is different sizes. So, and that's where the discomfort within the community came a while back. And that's why we've got these classifications, and that's legacy. That came from 30 years ago when the developer started. And we wanted to try to normalize it to some sort of degrees, because there was these things are consolidation of stands. Then that is the normal vanilla pieces, that was the subdivided stands, and this is more the townhouse type of stands. But in total, yes, 870 units.
So is there a formula on how to calculate that per unit or what? Or is it a thumbs up?
I don't understand.
Is there a formula?
Yeah, so it's a historical thing. So it comes back from years past from an AGM. There was a decision that the smaller stands will pay less, the bigger stand a little more, the bigger stand even more. Okay. Whereas the feeling of the board as well through years and many other boards before us has been your levy shouldn't be based on the size of your stand or the value of your stand. Because I might have a house and 2 people are living in there. That's a 3-bedroom house. And I'm going to use you as an example. You asked the question, if I may, that you have a house maybe of a 4-bedroom, but you've got 6 people maybe living in your house. Okay, so you've put a bigger burden on the security and a lot of stuff on the estate. So actually the levy should be the same. Everybody should be paying exactly the same levy, because our levy goes to security, it goes to the beautification of our gardens, where we all benefit exactly the same. Doesn't matter if I've got a bigger stand or a smaller stand, we benefit the same. But historically, this has come through. And as we say, so there was a formula that was used. But with that formula, The smaller stands would stay at a low percentage and the big stands would get so far ahead, so much more money to pay that it would become a huge problem for the estate. Therefore, what we've done is we've initiated that we try and keep the levy increase to a fixed amount. So if we put it up, say, by 100 Rand, 100 Rand for the small stand and the big stand, there's still the gap. The historical gap is still there. So hopefully one day that historical gap will go away and everybody will then benefit the same out of the whole thing.
It's just too difficult to unwind it. Got too many interested people that to try to unwind it. As I say, we tried a couple of times.
Okay, any other questions for financials? So maybe I just want to elaborate a little bit, Adolf, in your question for the river. So the river, as we know, has been a sore point. We've done many presentations. We've got lots of things in the bag. There is some very good development as we speak. We've engaged with the council, Tshwane Council. They've set up a couple of meetings. We're trying to engage with the bigger role players down the river to get them involved. At the moment, there's 4 of us, I think, Jacob, only 4 or 3 of us that are contributing to the litter trap. So with engaging, and the benefit to that is not only to us, the whole downstream from us gets the benefit. We're spending the money and they're actually benefiting. So we're trying to bring those state players back into it so they can also contribute. And we really feel that if we can get that money in from them as well, we'll pay a lot less collectively as a bigger group, and then we'll have some kind of saving. Right.
Yeah, just ask a general question. It's something that I haven't seen in the presentation, and it relates to, and it's also a sore point we had as an area of conflict. When do you intervene and when don't you around our public infrastructure, our roads and so on, which is getting to a point where intervention is needed. So I guess you got to fight the big battles in the river. And maybe one also needs to start looking at what's the long-term to medium-term intervention from the council perspective, where the infrastructure is starting to age in terms of our roads, and what's going to be at play if they are not going to pay attention to the type of all other infrastructure. This is probably not even on their radar to address.
Yes. So I don't know if there's an answer to your question or your statement, but it's a double-edged sword. We can decide to take over, but then the council will want us to take over the services that become ours. Okay, and then we are responsible for all those services. Bear in mind, we are now 26, 27, 30 years, we're 30 years down the line, which is end of life for all services. 30 years is max. So advice from the board, we've debated it at length. No, we're not interested in taking over those services. We will, yes, are problems. We're sitting with streetlights. We are handling it. If you'll remember, we ran that through one of our meetings and we got permission from the residents to spend some money to get our streetlights back working. Roads is another sore point because there are also certain sections of our roads that need attention urgently. We've engaged, the board has engaged with Robex to do roads and all that sort of stuff to see if we can get some kind of sponsorship. We don't want to really spend levy money on it. But I think there's a lot to discuss. We discuss all these issues and it can take a long time. So just to maybe answer you short, we're looking at it. The advice at this stage to the residents is we do not want to take over the services unless the majority really feel that we should, then we can spend money, but then our reserves are going to be depleted very quickly. So we are engaging on a weekly basis with the municipality. We've got all the records, the history of what we're doing, how we're doing in the office. Any resident is more than welcome to come and sit down, make an appointment with Jaco and have a look at what we do on a weekly basis, how we report all these service problems that we've got on our estate. I've had personal engagement with the mayor on site. I actually invited the mayor here to our site where we discussed all these things. As is with politics, we get a lot of promises on the floor, but nothing really happens, unfortunately. We're really hoping that with elections this year, we'll get something better. We've had a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel where we've had them recently come in and look at our street lights and our drainage, because that was another big concern for us, is all our stormwater drainage on the estate. Even that infrastructure is end of life. So yes, we are engaging with them. We've had a little bit of success and we're working hard to get a lot more success out of it. Right. Good. Anything else? Can we say general, anything you want to ask?
We walk around quite a bit in the green areas, which are a real pleasure to see, including along the river. One thing we noticed along the river is that apart from the plastics and so on, which are all over, despite the very good cleaning efforts that we have, there's also a smell and there's foam, which suggests industrial pollution upstream. It's quite possible that that's outside the SWANE boundaries. What can be done, just as you are approaching the beneficiaries downstream, to engage the enforcers of the law upstream, so that we don't continue to get foam and smell?
Okay. You see me smiling because we've really almost exhausted all avenues on that side. So we've engaged again at the highest level, and part of my engagement with the mayor on site was that particular. To be blunt, it's raw sewage. The sewage farms upstream cannot handle the capacity that's coming in, and they actually release it straight into the river, which is criminal, but everybody's jumping up and down. Our MMCs, our city managers, our mayor, everybody's up in arms, but reality, nothing can be done in the short term. Long term, they have to increase the capacities at the sewage farms, try and upgrade them. And this is what we're engaging right at this moment with the Tshwane Council to see how we can do that and what we can do to get it better. We've gone a step further with this engagement of role players downstream, is to bring in a nanotechnology which actually cleans the actual water in the river. Okay, very expensive technology, works very well, and therefore we're trying to see if we can raise the money to actually install into the river system. Okay. Anything else?
Just even in the previous, the area around the estate.
You just need to speak a little bit louder. Remember, we're streaming, the people need to also hear.
The area around the estate, around our area, maybe it's not, I've been there, where it's not safe. As residents, yes, we stay in the estate, safely protected, but outside, I don't know if we can engage the churches. There always people like those vendors and people just roaming around and type of thing, and it's great. For the area, it doesn't look cool. Okay, but it's not good for the area.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know what we can do as residents, or not residents, but inform the authorities that are.
So unfortunately, collectively, we are responsible for inside our walls. We obviously take cognizance of our immediate surrounds. That is a centre on its own. It is on our radar. We do monitor quite a bit there. We have had some incidents where our security is also assisted, but in reality, there's not really much we can do to enforce anything on the centre itself. We raise our concerns with the owners of the centre. They've got similar concerns that we've got, obviously. But again, it comes to money restraints and what they can do and what they can't do. What I can tell you is we have now joined the VUMA-CAM. I don't know if you know what VUMA-CAM is. It is installing cameras in your immediate area outside our estate. And we've joined that group. There is a small fee that we pay monthly towards it. And with that, they monitor all our streets and all the things around and direct access to the SAP, South African Police Force. And we are hoping with that and more monitoring, it will actually de-escalate the problems that we have on the centre itself. Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending. I hope the streaming went well. We'll hear from the rest of the residents, I'm sure, about tomorrow.
But thank you very much, and we hope that you got some good information from our feedback meeting on our finances. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at it. The ones that's listening, they that can't respond.
I mail you.
So it appears not gone yet. It's the AGML get it. It hasn't disappeared.
Thank you. Well done. Maybe we're going to start.
Met 2 jaar gaan het wacht.
But yeah, let me go.
No, that's good.
Pleasure. Keep it. So you'll deal with it. Ik kan alles wat ik daar voor, voor. Waar gaan jullie dan van zonder de sensus en alles. Maar niet lijkt voor jou, mag je dit. Dat is dan
Thank you very much.
All right.
Yes.